Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to Diz Connected, an unofficial Disney podcast of magical proportions. I'm Whitt Laxson, your Disney enthusiast host, and coming up, I love a good meme, and here is Ralph breaking the internet in this way.
They didn't set up a solid theme in the beginning and carry it through all the way to the end. She hams it up in this movie. It is ridiculous.
The Lion King trailer, out of nowhere.
This feels like it's a really, really big deal.
I'm sorry to be a hater, but that was just terrible. Hey guys, what's up? It's Whitt, back for another episode of Diz Connected, and joining me as always via Skype is my friend and fellow Disney enthusiast, Katie Carter. Hey, Katie.
Hey, Whitt.
Hey. So, Katie, it's been a while, as always. It always has been a while since we've talked. And oh my goodness, today we are going to be discussing two of the latest Disney films hitting the big screen. Ralph Breaks the Internet, we'll have a review of that, and I'll get your review of the Nutcracker and the Four Realms. We've also got to hit the Disney news in the Disney download. So are you ready to get started, Katie?
I think I'm ready.
All right, well, let's do this. Well, Katie, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and I hope you got the chance to enjoy Ralph Breaks the Internet. Did you?
I did.
Well, I enjoyed this movie, and we'll get into our review here in just a bit, but I always love to start with one of your synopsises. So could you tell us what Ralph Breaks the Internet is all about?
Sure. Well, it's set about 6 years after the events of Wreck-It Ralph. And Ralph and Vanellope are best friends now. They're just kind of living their lives in their arcade games. They're hanging out every night and doing their games every day. And Ralph is fine with that, but Vanellope's getting kind of bored. So Ralph tries to help liven things up a bit, and it results in her game being broken and threatening to be unplugged. So if her game's unplugged, she won't have any home to go back to. And at the same time, the owner of the arcade where their games are at installs Wi-Fi. So they end up kind of hearing about this eBay and decide that they're going to go into the internet and find this missing part for her game so that it'll be fixed and won't be unplugged. So that kind of jump starts this adventure into the internet. And of course, they come into contact with all these different apps and websites on their journey to find this part for Vanellope's game.
Very nice. Very nicely done. Okay. And the part that was lost is a steering wheel. And one thing that I will say before we really dive into this is that I loved the first Wreck-It Ralph. I mean, that, I think for me, looking back on it, was so exciting because that was kind of the beginning of the revival era to an extent, because we'd had Princess and the Frog, Tangled, but then when Wreck-It Ralph came out, it was like, bam, Disney animation is back, and then of course Frozen a year later. But for me, that was the one. I mean, I loved Tangled and Princess and the Frog, but I don't know what it was. Wreck-It Ralph was just such a big hit, and I loved it so much. I believe you felt the same way about the OG.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I still remember being so wowed by just how much I loved it. I went into it expecting to enjoy it, and it's kind of a different movie from what we associated with Disney animation at that point. So I don't think anybody really knew completely what to think going into it, and I was just so surprised at how fun it was and how heartfelt it was and how great the characters were, and I just completely loved it.
Yeah, and that was 2012, so 6 years ago, and in that time, I think Wreck-It Ralph has become more and more popular. Of course, there's always the question of, was it necessary for them to make a sequel? We will answer that coming up, but overall, I enjoyed this new movie, Ralph Breaks the Internet. I will say, though, it was messy, and unfortunately, I do think I have more negative things to say about it than positive. But would you like to start with the positive?
Sure. Let's see. Positive things. The attention to detail and the just world building, how the internet is portrayed in this movie is amazing, which is, totally what we would expect from Disney. But just the way they craft the internet and make it appear like this huge city, and how all the websites and apps are, and the way that you travel through them. I mean, like eBay is an actual auction house. When they go to like BuzzTube, which is the YouTube equivalent, people are like literally handing out little hearts to videos that they like, and even just like things in the background, not things that are related to the plot. Like I know at one point they kind of go by Pinterest, and it's like this room with all these like photos and stuff just pinned up on the walls, which seems like kind of an obvious thing to do, but it's still just really cool to see all the detail that they put into that. It was just really creative, and I really loved seeing that. I thought it was really clever.
Yeah, I loved the world of the internet that they created, and I loved the little people that were representing us as internet users, and even the pop-up ads. I thought that was
the clickbait.
So unique, so clever. Yeah, loved it. There were several fun pop culture references, like the Chewbacca dad, and you also got Miranda Sings from the internet, and those were great for, I think, people our age. I don't think younger viewers will understand a lot of those. They may, but that made it so fun. Dated, yes, which is another concern we've had about this movie. But if you think about it, some other Disney films have modern day, at the time that they were released, references as well. So this was very specific in terms of the film, but still. So I loved that. And the princesses, that was everything. Was that the scene pretty much that you saw at D23 when they are in the backstage room?
Yeah, pretty much everything that took place in that backstage room was what they showed at D23, which is like very rough animation still at D23. But yeah, it was pretty much the whole thing, I think. But there was some of it that wasn't in any of the trailers that I'd forgotten about until it popped up in this movie, like the part where they asked Vanellope about her parents, and she's like, I don't even have a mom. And all the princesses are like, neither do we. I just cracked up at that. It's so great. It's so funny.
Yeah, and Jodie Benson sang, which
yes.
I remember you telling me that she was going to a little bit. And I loved what they did with all that. I think they gave a lot of that scene away leading up to the movie with trailers and whatnot.
They did,
but the ending scene with the princesses was not expected. They had not shown anything from that, and I loved it because they talk about how, they always were getting saved by a man or something, or they didn't like that stereotype. And then at the end of the movie, they saved the day.
Right.
And I loved it. They each brought something to the table as far as how they did save Ralph there at the end, except Tiana's was odd. Tiana brought out a frog to kiss Ralph back awake, but
they could have done a bit better by her. But I mean, it was cute. I mean, it was again kind of playing with those stereotypes about the princess always having to get true love's kiss and all of that. But I knew the princesses had to come back again in the movie. Like they had to serve some more of a purpose. So I was glad that they kind of came in briefly at the end again.
Right. And it was the whole idea was supposed to be, this is so meta, and it's canon. It is canon, and that's a thing. So also on the note of princesses, there is a great song in this movie that Vanellope sings about loving Slaughter Race. And I don't know if you mentioned that particular game in your synopsis or not, but there's a game that Ralph and Vanellope go into while they're in the internet, and Vanellope falls in love with this game. It's called Slaughter Race, and it's basically it's kind of a sugar rush that's not very sugary. It's very gritty and action packed, and for maybe a teen audience even. But yeah, and there's this great I Want song because the princesses tell her, what do you want? And look into the reflection of the water and find out what you want. And you should be able to sing it. And so then she has this lovely musical number that was out of left field, but I loved it.
I loved it too. It's written by Alan Menken.
Mm-hmm.
So that was great. I don't know if they announced that he was doing a song for this movie before and I just didn't realize it, or if that was just a surprise thing. But
I think it was a surprise. And
yeah, because that came up in the credits, and I was like, oh, Alan Menken.
Yeah, and they also had a pop version that played during the credits too. So, but yeah, glad to see Alan Menken back writing music for a Walt Disney animated feature. Okay, what else do I have here on the positive?
This is kind of different, but the animation, of course, is great as always. And kind of harkening back to the first Wreck-It Ralph, what was so great about the animation there is how they worked with all the different styles for the different video games. So like some of the older games, they were like really pixelated and had jerky movements, and the newer ones were really like smooth and, you know, detailed 3D. And they kind of did a little bit of that again here, like with Slaughter Race, the playable characters, the way they just kind of like stuttered around in circles and were moving with these really like jerky movements. I mean, I play a fair amount of video games, and that was just like so spot on what those kinds of games look like, and that was hilarious to me.
The same way in the first movie, they brought that back and nailed it, hit it out of the park. Okay, one last positive for me here, which I know that's kind of sad, but I wrote that the viral video sequence was so funny, where Ralph is trying to gain all these hearts to in turn get money and then buy the steering wheel. But loved that part where Ralph made all these viral videos and then it shows all the humans in the world watching them. I was like, this is so my life. I love a good meme. And here is Ralph breaking the internet in this way. So I enjoyed that part as well. On to the negative. I think that the writers of this movie and the creative team, I think they knew what they wanted to happen, but they didn't know how they wanted to get from point A to point B to point C, because the story took a lot of odd turns, and you know, it was just, there were moments where I was like, whoa, wait. We were heading in this direction. Ralph was going to break the internet as far as being a viral video and meme. And then it's like, oh no, wait, he's going to be a virus and it's going to spread and kill the internet. So I don't know. It was just like they couldn't decide on one thing. And it was also weird how, going back to the whole, they knew they couldn't get to point A to point B. For example, when Vanellope goes to Oh My Disney is a point in the movie when she and Ralph, they've been together for all this time, and Ralph is making all this viral content, and then all of a sudden Vanellope's like, oh, well, I want to go sell ads or be a pop-up blocker or whatever it was that she was doing. And that was it. It was like, that was the best explanation that they could come up with was, ooh, Vanellope's going to leave now and go help this way because she wants to help. But that was an example that bothered me a little bit. Yeah, any thoughts on that point?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I was not super happy with the direction that the story took. I just feel like it needed refocusing a lot. And, you know, after the movie, I mean, I kind of realized, you know, at the beginning of the movie, usually with a Disney movie especially, we find out right away what the characters are wanting. And with this movie, it really wasn't until Vanellope met up with the princesses that we realized, she has a dream that she's looking for, and what is that, where this is going? And I know that they mention at the beginning that she's kind of bored, but that is kind of dropped when they go off to find the steering wheel. So you just don't really think of it again. And then as for Ralph, with the first Wreck-It Ralph, we know right away he is trying to not be seen as the bad guy anymore, or he doesn't want to be this lonely bad guy. And again, with this movie, he actually really doesn't have any sort of character motivation outside of just, you know, trying to help Vanellope until that final act where he thinks she's leaving him, and he, you know, gets very upset about that. And then he has to face his insecurity about that. But it isn't until the very end where that kind of becomes his character journey. So I just feel like the whole movie, we just don't really know where the characters are trying to go.
To jump on that, it's like at first we are wanting to have more fun in Sugar Rush. And then, oh, wait, we've lost the steering wheel. Now we've got to go get the steering wheel. And then it's back to, oh, I want a more fun life. And for Ralph, it's, I'm going to help Vanellope. Oh, wait, I'm going to miss Vanellope. I don't want her to leave. She's my best friend. It's just very confusing and all over the place. Like I said, messy. And that bothers me because Disney usually doesn't have that problem. They're very, they're known for being the best storytellers out there. So a little disappointed that they couldn't bring things home there. And like I said, lots of odd turns. There were some new characters that were not featured all that well. I feel like the character of Yes, which was Taraji P Henson, I enjoyed her a lot, but she had several points in the movie and then she disappeared at the end. It was like we never saw her again.
Right.
So I don't know what happened to her. And then there was a villain who came in for 2.5 seconds, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there
It was
really was
just
no villain in this movie except for,
no.
this sort of villain that Ralph's, sadness and insecurity turns him into briefly.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's really no bad guy. There's nothing like super drastic. I mean, I know like her game is going to be unplugged, so it's kind of drastic, but yeah, I don't know. It's like the conflict just isn't, never feels like really tense to me.
No. No.
Kind of what you said, it goes from being about them finding the steering wheel and all of a sudden, oh, this is like this emotional drama about their friendship that just kind of comes out of nowhere. And I mean, I really thought that those scenes were very emotional and heart-wrenching. I think the voice actors did a great job, and I really love seeing their relationship because I love those characters. I just wish that the build up to those scenes was stronger so that we felt that even more, because I think that there were some really good interactions between them, but it just kind of came so out of left field that they didn't hit as hard as it should have.
Absolutely. And I think there was even a point where I was kind of thrown off by how quickly Vanellope got mad at Ralph when she finds out that he put this virus in Slaughter Race. Because to explain that, Vanellope falls in love with this Slaughter Race game and the characters that are inside it, which shout out to Gal Gadot, because that was my favorite new character. What's that character's name?
Shank.
Okay. So loved that. Yeah, then Ralph doesn't want Vanellope to stay there, so he puts a virus in the game, and then all of a sudden Vanellope is so mad at Ralph, and I'm just like, wait a second, this is so different from 2 minutes ago in the movie. So, what was the message of this film? Don't be clingy?
I mean, it kind of is, honestly. I mean, yeah, because I think that what they try to leave you with is their friendship. I mean, that's where the movie ends up. But yeah, there's really no solid message. And I mean, and I really thought, and I mean, in some ways I'm kind of glad that it's not, because one of my concerns going into the film was, with all the online references, would it be like so timely that a few years from now it'll already be irrelevant? How is that going to play? And I feel like there wasn't too much of that, but I'm really surprised that they didn't take more advantage of the online environment to have some sort of, more social commentary about like the state of social media and the internet and the way we all live our lives online. I really just didn't get a lot of that. I mean, there's a scene where in BuzzTube where Ralph kind of wanders into this comment section and sees all of these horrible, mean comments that people are posting about him on his viral videos. And then Yes walks in and says, first rule of the internet, never read the comments. Mm-hmm. But then that scene just kind of peters out right there, and there's no really message to glean from that either. So they didn't set up a solid theme in the beginning and carry it through all the way to the end.
Yeah, missed opportunity. And I mentioned the clingy thing, and so I think you will take away this idea of let people in your life go live their dreams, even if it means that they've got to get out of your life, which I didn't relate to it in that way, but I will say there were some deja vu moments for me because my best friend moved away when I was in 8th grade. So I've experienced that whole friend moving away thing and a long distance friendship. And even to the point where when my friend moved away, I gave her a broken heart necklace, and she has one half of the heart and I have the other. And that's what happens in this movie.
Yeah.
Ralph gives Vanellope that heart that's broken in half, that necklace. Oh, that blew my mind. But anyway, you were talking about the real websites and how you were worried about that being an issue in a couple of years when that's outdated. I think because the internet is here to stay, I think that's not going to be a huge problem after seeing this film, although they got very specific at times with the websites that we saw. We even saw Snapchat, and I think the popularity of Snapchat has gone down since they even made this movie. I will say that I was bothered by the fact that they had a mix of real websites and fake websites. So the BuzzTube thing, it was like, oh, so we have BuzzTube, which isn't real, but then we're going to go to eBay, which is real. So I don't know, that bothered me a little bit.
I don't know if maybe there was some sort of like licensing or rights issues maybe with them portraying those sites in the film. I don't really know how that works with a website, but
Yeah.
maybe they just didn't want to have their website logos used in the movie.
Could be. And they couldn't have just made up completely fake names for every website because the original film references so many real arcade games. So
Right.
that would have been an issue, I think, too, for continuity's sake. But hey, it's Disney. Continuity doesn't exist. Um, I was waiting on a twist to happen because Disney animation has made me, with all these films, they've made me expect a twist in every single one of their movies. You look at Zootopia and Frozen. I thought it was going to come at some point, but it didn't, so that's fine. Even the first Wreck-It Ralph had a twist, but no twist.
I mean, unless the twist is that the story takes a completely different direction from what you were expecting. But not a very good direction. Yeah, I was kind of waiting on that too. Like, I was really thinking something would happen toward the end that would wow me or surprise me, and I never really felt that way. It was just kind of like, okay. Oh, this is what we're doing now. All right.
Do you think that kids are going to enjoy this movie? Because like a lot of Disney films and animated movies, it was pretty adult at times, I felt like. I didn't feel like there was a lot there. And I'll compare that to, I saw the new Grinch movie, and it was very kiddie. And the kids in this movie that were like sitting in front of me and around me were really restless because it does appeal to adults in a lot of ways, I think. So
kids will probably enjoy it, but I do really feel like it's geared more toward people our age, like especially with the ohmydisney.com thing. I mean, that website I feel is geared more toward people around our age. And yeah, exactly. So, and of course, millennials are the people who I'm sure are using more of these apps and websites and are familiar with, the memes and, going online and liking videos and liking content. So, I mean, I feel like a really little kid who's still too young to, use the internet, obviously they're probably not going to get a lot of that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess there are lots of small children who have cell phones and stuff now, so maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't want to say that they wouldn't enjoy it, but I don't think that they are the target.
I agree. I missed the old characters. We didn't mention that, but, we didn't see much of Fix-It Felix Jr. and the character that Jane Lynch voices, Calhoun. Yeah, we didn't see them very much.
But they bring that that was another weird thing that I had. They bring up what seems like it's going to be a little subplot about her and Felix adopting all of the other racers from Vanellope's game after their game is unplugged. And they kind of like bring it up at the very beginning because Felix gets like super stressed about it. And then at the very end, like we never see them again until the very, very, very end of the movie where they're like, oh, everything's fine now. Like we're great parents. And I was like, what was the point of that?
I know. It should have jumped back. So for sure.
Yeah, it had no purpose.
To answer the question that I asked at the beginning of our review, was this a necessary sequel? No.
I will say that I applaud them for, taking the story in a completely different direction and not just rehashing the same plot, because they very easily could have done another story that was all in the arcade and, been a similar thing about Ralph being the bad guy and all of that. But they really went off in a different direction here, which may not have had the greatest results, but it made for a really, different movie. And yeah, but necessary, no.
But I enjoyed it. You get to see Disney characters from other films and properties all in one movie. You even get to see, and we'll talk about Stan Lee passing later, but Stan Lee is even in this movie. Yeah. The credits scene is funny. There's a scene mid-credits. Is there a scene at the very, very end that I missed?
Oh, yeah.
What is it?
It's the Rickroll meme.
Oh.
The first screen that comes up, it says something like, Frozen 2, sneak peek here. And then it has like a little cursor that clicks on it, and then it opens up, and it's Ralph dancing and singing, Never Gonna Give You Up. And it's like really cheesy, like backdrops and dancing. And
there's a mid-credit scene too, which is, it's so funny because in the first trailer they show this scene a little bit, and then when the scene pops up, you hear the mom ask the little girl, like, did you enjoy the movie? Yeah, but there was a part that wasn't in the trailer, and then there it is. So
That was great.
yeah. Okay, any other thoughts on Ralph Breaks the Internet before we move along here?
I don't think so. I mean, it's not a horrible movie, but it's not great by Disney animation standards.
No, but historic, the first Walt Disney animation canon sequel since
Fantasia 2000.
Okay, since Fantasia 2000, I guess. But I was going to say since The Rescuers Down Under, but you're right. Okay. And then, of course, next year we have Frozen 2. So now Disney Animation is going to do what Pixar's done, and that's just great. All right. I would like to briefly hear your thoughts on The Nutcracker in the Four Realms. I personally don't really care about this movie, so you don't have to get in depth. But what'd you think?
Yeah, it's a weird movie.
Yeah.
And it actually started out okay. I mean, I was going into it fully expecting it to be terrible, and it started out, and I was like, this is fine, It starts out, it's very Christmassy. They go to the ball, kind of typical Nutcracker fashion. But when she goes to these realms, it starts to get weird really fast, and it turns into, and you can kind of tell this from the trailers, but a very like Alice in Wonderland type story. But the story, it's really weak. The message is just kind of your typical, believe in yourself message. You really don't feel the magic of this world that she goes into, Clara, who's the protagonist, too much. I mean, it's the four realms, but we really only see like one realm. So that's kind of dumb. The Nutcracker, this really didn't even need to be called the Nutcracker because the Nutcracker is not an essential part of the story. He's just a side character who pops up. So that was disappointing because I do really like the original Nutcracker story and the music, but there is a lot of the music in the movie. One very positive thing is that there is a ballet sequence that Misty Copeland dances, and it's so gorgeous. And there's a couple sequences where they shoot the musicians in silhouette exactly the way that they did the live action interludes in the original Fantasia. Like, it's the same colors. It's absolutely an homage to that. So I thought that was amazing. And that sequence was really just unlike anything else that you see in movies nowadays. So I was really disappointed that after that, the movie just kind of devolves into this generic adventure. And one other thing is with the cast, there are some big names in the cast. One of them is Keira Knightley, who plays the Sugar Plum Fairy, and she's one of the leaders of one of the four realms. It is the strangest performance I have seen in a movie in a long time. I don't know if it's so bad it's good or just terrible or like actually fantastic. I don't know, but she just goes, she hams it up in this movie. It is ridiculous.
And let me jump in there and mention that while on her press tour and talking to Ellen, she bashed, I think it was The Little Mermaid and Cinderella, saying that she didn't let her kid watch those movies because it was damsel in distress kind of situation or boy saves the day. Yeah, I'm sure she got a phone call from Disney like very soon.
So yeah, Keira Knightley's really strange in this movie. So if you want to see a really weird Keira Knightley performance, then I would absolutely recommend this because it's just weird.
All right.
Weird movie. I mean, if you're looking to watch a festive holiday movie, I can't say that I would recommend this except for maybe the opening like 2 seconds. There's a nice little tracking shot through a very CGI London that's very like wintry and pretty, but yeah. I don't know what they were thinking with this one, honestly.
I miss the early 2000s Christmas movie era because we were getting some good Christmas movies back in the day.
I know.
But they can't seem to do it that way anymore. So
and I don't get it. I mean, it's not that hard.
Yeah. I mean, look at Hallmark. Am I right?
Exactly.
Kidding. Well, hey, when The Nutcracker in the Four Realms comes on Freeform for 25 Days of Christmas in a couple of years, I will watch it then. But I'm not going to go see it right now in theaters.
Good call.
Merry Christmas, though, everyone. All right. Moving on to the Disney download now and getting into our news topics. starting with a sad topic today, Katie, the passing of Disney legend Stan Lee. He died at age 95 on November 12th. And this was one of those that just, it hurt to read the news because he's been so active even in these later years of his life and so prominent in pop culture. You know, I want to read this statement from the CEO of the Walt Disney Company, Bob Iger. He said, Stan Lee was as extraordinary as the characters he created, a superhero in his own right to Marvel fans around the world. Stan had the power to inspire, to entertain, and to connect. The scale of his imagination was only exceeded by the size of his heart. And again, that's from Bob Iger there. And yeah, that really says it all because I know you're a huge Marvel fan, and even I have been impacted, of course, by Stan Lee, and just I remember loving Spider-Man as a kid. So yeah, what was your reaction to the news? It was just, heartbreaking.
It was so sad. And I mean, it's one of those things that's not surprising because we know he's old and he's been, kind of ill lately, but it's still so surprising because every time you see him in a movie or in like some sort of event, he's just so like lively and enthusiastic. And I never had the chance to meet him myself, but I always heard such great things from fans who met him. He did a ton of conventions and meet and greets, and it really seemed like he did that not because he had to, but because he enjoyed it. And of course, he was a co-creator of some of the most iconic superheroes of all time. And on top of that, he really pioneered a new style of writing for comic books back in the 60s and made the characters, these superhuman characters, more human and gave them human problems and qualities. So that's huge. I mean, I think it's really safe to say that there's so much of our pop culture, not just comics, that would be different if he had never been around. So
did you get to see him at D23?
I did. Yeah, I watched him receive his Disney Legend Award. So that was really great. It was fun to see him and hear him talk for a bit, and yeah, that was really awesome.
Yeah. Well, rest in peace, Stan Lee, and Excelsior, right?
Yes, Excelsior.
Yes. All right. And switching gears to some trailer talk now, Katie. So many movie trailers have dropped for upcoming Disney and Marvel movies. So on Thanksgiving, the Lion King trailer. Out of nowhere.
Surprise.
There it is. Okay.
Well, I know you said something like you knew it had to be coming soon or at some point soon, which makes sense because it's coming out next summer. But yeah, I don't know if it just wasn't on my radar because they recently released the Aladdin and then a new trailer for Dumbo. Not expecting that at all.
Yeah. And it appeared during a football game. And so there were so many people posting on social media about how families were reacting to this. And you and I had the same experience of, you texted me and you'd seen it on TV. Well, I was not watching the football game. So I'm looking it up online. Well, then I go to show my family and I'm like, look at this. Here's the Lion King trailer. And I hear my dad say, oh, yeah, we just saw that on TV. And I'm like, and you didn't tell me?
Aww.
You didn't even think like, oh, Whit would care to know about this.
I mean, maybe they thought it was already out and that you knew all about it already.
I guess.
That's probably what happened.
Probably. Yeah, but still. But then there were just so many other things online where people were making fun of how they were so excited about The Lion King and then their family just had no reaction. So, but yeah, and you had a similar
kind of. Well, my parents do really like The Lion King, so it wasn't like they just completely didn't care. Like they stopped what they were doing to watch it.
Okay.
But I mean, I was not watching football. We just had it on and I was over in front of the TV showing something to my mom and I just happened to look up and I saw that opening shot of the animals and I just started like pointing at the screen, was like, and my parents were like, what is that? I was like, Lion King.
Yeah. And you had seen this though, D23, right?
Well, it was a little different. At D23, they played, it was like the whole opening number. This was a little different in how it was cut. And then there was a scene of, I don't know if it was supposed to be Mufasa or adult Simba. I'm assuming Mufasa, where he's on top of Pride Rock at the very end of the trailer. Like that shot, I know that they didn't show. But yeah, it was kind of, I mean, obviously, like then we didn't have the James Earl Jones narration either. So that was great to hear him again as Mufasa.
It does feature, I feel like, the same recording of The Circle of Life from the original movie, which is fine. I wouldn't really want it any other way, but still, I'm like, well, man, you guys, this is really just
Yeah. Yeah, I'm one.
the same
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that they would try to do something maybe a little different with it, but who knows?
Well, let's talk about the animation because it's very similar to how, with Beauty and the Beast, these characters, like the inanimate objects in Beauty and the Beast, there was a big issue with how they just weren't, animated. They were very realistic looking and there wasn't much character to them and to their faces. And that's my concern with this too is the animals look so real. How is that going to feel when we're watching them talk and sing even? We saw it a little bit with the Jungle Book, but I feel like it's different for the Lion King with there not being any real people in the movie. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I know. I mean, I love the Jungle Book, and I didn't have that issue with that movie. I did have that issue with the inanimate objects in Beauty and the Beast, but really didn't have that issue with the Jungle Book. And I think I'll just have to wait and see more of the like main characters, what they look like when more footage and images from this Lion King come out, because we still haven't seen Timon or Pumbaa. We haven't seen Scar. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of our main people to, really be able to tell. So, and I think Timon and Pumbaa will be a big tell also on how it's going to be, because they're like so exaggerated and goofy. So are they going to be like super realistic? And how's that going to play with their kind of more goofier characters? So I'll just kind of wait and see. As of right now, I'm not too concerned. I think that, baby Simba is really cute and looks like he has a lot of personality. So yeah. I'll just wait and see. I'm not super worried about it as of right now.
Another thing I want to say, and we're going to talk about 2 other live action remake trailers here in just a second, but I feel like my peak of excitement for these live action remakes has already happened. But then the Lion King trailer drops and it's like, oh man, that movie is just going to get us all. We're going to be crying. Like, oh my goodness, when Mufasa dies. Oh no.
I know. It's so funny because I feel the same way. Like I was, and I mean, you were much more excited about Beauty and the Beast than I was, even though I ended up really liking the movie. Like you were initially way more excited, and like, the Dumbo trailer came out. I was like, this is fine. Aladdin, I know we're going to talk about this, but like Aladdin, whatever. But like this one was just, I don't know what it is about Lion King. I think it's just the original movie is still so magical and I don't know. And I have great memories associated with it, but just seeing how beautiful that trailer was again was so thrilling. And I mean, I actually almost immediately went online to find it so I could watch it again.
Yeah. So
yeah, there's something that feels really different about, like, this feels like it's a really, really big deal.
Yeah. I mean, I predict $1 billion for sure at the box office.
That
no
sounds
doubt.
accurate.
Yes. Moving on to those other trailers we've been mentioning, Dumbo, that was shown before my showing of Wreck-It Ralph, or Ralph Breaks the Internet, and that's an epic trailer. I mean, that's the full trailer for Dumbo, or what I find so interesting about this remake is the first movie is like an hour and 10 minutes, so they have a lot to build on there, and they have a lot to expand on. So I'm kind of excited about it. I'm excited again for a Tim Burton movie. I know I've said that before. It's been a while since he's had something big. So
no, I was going to say the same thing because, like you said, the original animated movie is so short and sweet. And, this movie, we can already tell from the trailers that there's going to be all these new characters coming in and interacting with Dumbo. And I am also really excited to see where they go with that, because I think, we don't want just a retread of the exact same movie. Like, I don't go into these movies wanting to just see a live action interpretation scene by scene of the animated one. And I think this is a really great opportunity for them to kind of take maybe the same basic story, but add more to it and make it something, kind of completely different.
Yeah, and the pink elephants on parade looks so cool. The Aladdin teaser, very much a teaser. That movie comes out next Memorial Day. And I'm just sitting there, like, wow, this is really epic. But wasn't this movie supposed to be about Genie at one point in time? And now it's just full on Aladdin. But yeah, what'd you think about that? It's kind of just a scene through an overlook through Agrabah is what it felt like. We're on a magic carpet. It feels like it's kind of what they did. And you see Iago and you see the Cave of Wonders. And then at the end, you see the lamp and Aladdin. And then it's the teaser. But what'd you think?
I mean, it didn't get me super excited, I have to say. I'm just going to have to wait and see more, I guess, before I make any judgment, or I'll try and wait and see more before I make any judgment. But as of right now, I just kind of, not too sure about it. I don't know, it just looks very glossy. But maybe that's just because they're in the Cave of Wonders and everything's supposed to be shiny. I don't know.
I heard they did some reshoots, so that concerns me. But we'll see. We'll see. We have 2 teaser trailers for Toy Story 4. They came out, I think, 2 days apart, and both of them played before Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Yes.
For me.
Same for me.
Yeah. So the first one, it's just this little shot of the characters holding hands, and they're floating through the clouds. And then we meet this new character named Forky, which he's a spork. So there's a little bit of controversy there. But hey, whatever. Kids will name toys whatever they want to. And that was the first teaser. Really cute.
Yeah, it was cute.
Yeah. I think one thing I noticed from that trailer is just how much animation has evolved from the original Toy Story.
Oh, yeah.
Because I still watch that one on TV all the time. And to see how much better it looks is kind of wild. And then the second teaser for Toy Story 4 has the new characters Ducky and Bunny. And they're at this carnival, and they're kind of making fun of the Buzz and Woody sayings, and then Buzz and Woody come out and they're like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And yeah, it was funny, and I don't know, nothing has been given away about the plot or anything. It's just kind of those little teasers to get us excited. But
I don't know. I'm still kind of like anti Toy Story 4. Didn't need to be made, but do they really have a good story and a good idea for bringing all these characters back? Because we all know the third one ended really solidly. It was a really great ending for all those characters. So my concern is this just kind of a throwaway story, just an excuse to bring them back and make more money? Or do they really have like a great idea for a new adventure for these guys?
And whenever Toy Story 4 popped up on the screen, the logo in my showing of Ralph Breaks the Internet, I heard a kid go, "What?" So I was like, same kid, same. But anyway. And the last trailer we need to discuss, and it's been a while since I've seen this one, but Captain Marvel. And I know that's your department, so what'd you think of that?
Yeah, I think it looks really exciting, and love Brie Larson. This movie takes place in the 90s, and I think that they did a good job establishing that in the trailer, where she like crash lands in the middle of a blockbuster. I thought that was cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that the trailer did a good job kind of setting up that her character's not from Earth, and that she has, this kind of past maybe that she doesn't fully remember, and we kind of got a little look at some of her powers, and we get to see Samuel L. Jackson also playing a younger version of Nick Fury, so that was pretty cool. And we saw Agent Coulson, who of course would have been alive during the events of this movie, so it looks like he's going to be back in it for a little bit. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for a new origin story and Marvel's first female-led superhero movie.
And I love Brie Larson, so I cannot wait. Okay, enough trailer talk. Enough trailer talk for now. Let's move on to the next news story here, and that is Mickey's 90th birthday. It was on November 18th, which was the 90th anniversary of Steamboat Willie. And then, of course, Mickey turning 90. Minnie as well. Let's not forget about Minnie. Also celebrating 9 decades here. And so ABC aired Mickey's 90th Spectacular at the beginning of November on the 4th of the month. What did you think about this lovely 2-hour TV special, Katie?
It wasn't terrible. It was fine. I mean, it was just one of those things I kind of put on and just casually watched while I was doing other things. I didn't know who half the people were who were doing the music, and there were some music sequences. I mean, some of them were, Disney songs, which I was like, okay, cool. And some
Yeah.
of them weren't. And I was like, why is this here? Yeah.
It was fun. I enjoyed it because I knew it was happening and I was like sitting down. It was a whole thing for me. Like I was ready for it to come on. So I was not watching it casually. This was event TV for me. No, it just worked out that way that I didn't have anything going on that night. But I liked the video packages that they had. I liked the history tidbits that we got to hear about from Mickey. I liked some of the performances. The Tori Kelly Colors of the Wind with Mickey and Minnie dancing. That made my eyes water. It was so good, and just I got emotional seeing Mickey and Minnie. So their love. I mean, it's everything. It's everything. And then Leslie Odom Jr. I know you liked that performance. When You Wish Upon a Star, he nailed that. Megan Trainor, I also liked her performance of You've Got a Friend in Me, and she sang it with like a kids choir from I think West LA. And then towards the end, they brought out two of the original Mouseketeers, and I wrote their names down here: Bobby Burgess and Sharon Bard. And they were original Mouseketeers from 1955. So great. Yeah, that gave me chills. And then when everyone in the audience put on mouse ears and they sang the Mickey Mouse Club March. And also when they sang Happy Birthday to Mickey Mouse at the end, I got chills and got a little emotional. But yeah, other than that, I wasn't really, I could have done maybe with a 1 hour special. And Sophia Carson singing Part of Your World. I'm sorry to be a hater, but that was just terrible. Ugh. Our last news topic here, the Disney streaming service officially has a name. So Bob Iger announced that the direct-to-consumer streaming service will be called Disney Plus, and the logo is an actual plus sign, so not PLUS, and it's expected to launch here in the US in late 2019. So, Netflix, watch out. You've got about a year to figure out how you're going to compete there. We're going to have new content that's going to be movies and TV shows set in the worlds of Monsters, Inc. and High School Musical, and then also Star Wars. So I'm assuming that you are most excited about that Star Wars series that we're learning a little bit more about. Am I right?
Yeah, well, they've announced 2 live action series now.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's very exciting. The first one is Jon Favreau's series, which we now know is called The Mandalorian. And it's set between the events of Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, and kind of just about this Mandalorian bounty hunter kind of out in the far reaches of the galaxy going on adventures. And they've got a lot of really great directors lined up for it, from Bryce Dallas Howard to Taika Waititi. So it's going to be cool to see what all those different filmmakers bring to it. And the other series that they announced doesn't have a title yet, but it's going to be about Cassian from Rogue One, and Diego Luna is reprising his role. So that's obviously going to be set, kind of in the early stages of the rebellion, and it's described as more of a spy thriller. So that'll be great, and it'll be great. I love Cassian, so it's going to be cool to see him back as that character and get more of that. So very excited.
Well, I am actually most excited about, there's a docuseries that's going to be on the streaming service. I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but it's going to be called Ink and Paint. And it's a docuseries about the history of the ink and paint department at Walt Disney Animation. So I'm really pumped about that.
That's going to be
love
amazing.
A good documentary on Walt Disney Animation stuff. So,
and the great thing about that is that it sounds like it's going to, maybe give us information or insight that hasn't been, presented in a million documentaries before now.
Yeah.
And I love animation and animation history. So, that's going to be awesome.
We'll be able to get that next year. Disney Plus. Not so sure about that name. Like, Disney Plus what? We'll just have to wait and
I don't really
see.
care about the name. I just want the Star Wars shows.
Sure. Okay. I gotcha. All right. Well, as we wrap up here today, Katie, let's look ahead for the rest of the year. December, Mary Poppins Returns. It's happening December 19th. And oh my word. I mean, they had a 2020 special on the other night. Did you watch that yet?
Yeah.
Oh, that got me so pumped. especially the parts showing about the 2D hand-drawn animation,
Yes,
which
that
I'm
was my
sure was
favorite
your
part.
favorite too. Yeah. I think that's probably going to wind up being my favorite movie of the year. Hopefully. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And it seems like everybody involved is, really taking it seriously, and everybody kind of knows that Mary Poppins, the original one, is Disney's like crowning achievement in the live action department. And but yeah, I really love what I've seen and heard from it so far.
And it's crazy for me to think about just 3 years ago, we were hearing the rumors about what it was going to be. And at first we heard it was going to be a remake and all this. And now it's like, oh my goodness, here it is just a few weeks away. So can't wait. And initially I wasn't on board for it, but now I'm like, okay, let's do this.
Well, once we started seeing
it's
like the
happening.
first footage and images from it, it was like, okay, this looks great. And once I saw the like combination of live action and hand-drawn animation, those snippets from the trailer, I was like, okay, I'm sold.
Yeah, and the music sounds good. And the fact that Rob Marshall, the director, is a big Mary Poppins fanatic. He said on that 2020 special that was the first movie he saw at like 4 years old. I'm like, all right, it was meant to be. And the other movie that's coming out is Life Size 2 on Freeform, a part of the 25 Days of Christmas. That's December 2nd. I loved the original Life Size as a kid. I just rewatched it on Freeform, and I didn't remember a lot about it. I didn't remember that there was this whole resurrection plot line as to how the doll comes to life.
Yeah.
I think I just missed
It's like
that as a
something with
kid.
her hairbrush, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really dark. No, so the daughter is trying to bring her
Bring her mom
back
back.
to life.
Yes.
That's a little dark.
It is.
You know?
Yeah.
So the trailers for Life Size 2, I'm a little concerned that Tyra Banks is going to overact and it's just going to be really cheesy. But I will say that they released a music video for the new version of Shine Bright, Shine Far, You're a Star. Terrible. So auto-tuned, which I know that the first movie that was auto-tuned, but now they just took it another level and I'm like, stop.
No.
Please stop. So, but I'm excited for that and more excited for Mary Poppins Returns. But anyway.
Naturally.
Yeah. All right. Well, I believe that is all we have for today. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Diz Connected. Katie, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And you can find mine and Katie's social media links in the description below. Until next time, have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon, folks.